Plummeting oil prices have taken some of the shine off Arctic drilling. It's thought the icy region is a treasure trove of undiscovered black gold. But technically it's difficult and therefore expensive to extract. So, with oil prices having almost halved in the last 6 months, the break-even cost of Arctic oil per barrel is now way over the market average. This has led some players to pull the plug on their Arctic exploration programs. Yet others hope that this will just mean more spoils for them. RT's Daniel Hawkins reports.
Well, just a couple of years ago, the headlines were awash with excitement about the resource bonanza that awaited those who got there first. Oil firms rushed to pump billions into planning and developing projects. But since then, of course, oil prices have plummeted, and so has the energy firms' enthusiasm. Companies are laying off staff and cutting drilling around the world. Even the giants like Shell, BP and Chevron are also feeling the pinch. But there are those who are willing to take the risk and are making strategic long-term spending on exploration and drilling in the Arctic.
The reality is this is a tremendously difficult place to work. It's a place that will require years of research, new technologies, assessment mapping. Any company or partnership that begins the research and development necessary to work in this area will have an upper hand over those entities that do not.
Well, Russia's Gazprom and Rosneft have announced their investment plans into Arctic oil exploration, with the first oil shipments already being made. The Swedes aren't far behind, with plans to drill in the sea close to its northern shores. And even Shell, despite the global cuts I mentioned earlier, is refusing to be frozen out and has ring-fenced its Arctic investment with its sights set firmly on the Alaskan Arctic. So it seems that volatile oil prices are, so far at least, failing to put a big freeze on the Arctic race.
Ever more immigrants are coming to the UK, despite Prime Minister David Cameron's repeated promise to curb the influx. Yet his failing to deliver may prove a good thing for Britain, as the impact of losing its massive migrant workforce could prove just too damaging for the country's economy. RT's Anastasia Cherkina, she explains this one.
A pain in the neck for the British government, EU migrants flocking to the UK like bees to honey. According to the Office for National Statistics, the number of Eastern European workers in the UK has skyrocketed by 23% to almost 900,000 people in the past year. Simply put, the UK government has not met its goal of 5 years ago to reduce annual net migration to below 100,000 by 2015. And it's not just Eastern Europeans. Workers from Western Europe are coming too, with figures up 10%.
They would love to have these numbers down, and the British government has been hammering away, trying to reduce immigrant numbers for some time now.
It's embarrassing for the government. They did say that no ifs, no buts, I think was Mr Cameron's famous quote, that he would be dragging down net migration to these lower levels, and they failed to do that.
The reasons for the spike are simple. A buzzing labour market and a strong pound are attractive. And it's here that Cameron faces a dilemma. If he chooses to stem the flow, he risks affecting the economy.
If fewer people were coming in, then those low-paying jobs might be rather less low-paying. There would be labour market pressure to increase wages to make them more attractive.
No surprise then that with the general election around the corner, critics say the ruling Conservative Party wants to have its cake and eat it too.
It wants to make the noises of anti-immigration, but it doesn't really want to disable the country economically in the way it would have to do if it wanted to significantly cut the number of people coming.
David Cameron has set out a plan to renegotiate existing migration policies. The freedom of movement can't be restricted with Britain part of the EU, but the UK's aim is to come up with new rules when it comes to social benefits to discourage people from making the journey in the first place.
The public are expecting the politicians to be saying things about immigration. They're expecting them to bang on tables and say that they're going to be getting tough with Europe. So there's a lot of this. There's a big psychodrama that's being enacted in order to try and appease people.
More so, despite loud cries that the numbers of migrating workers need to go down, current facts suggest their rising numbers should be considered the new norm. Anastasia Cherkina, RT, London.
Well, talking of the British economy, a leading financial advisor to the Chancellor George Osborne is stepping down after being caught smoking crack cocaine. RT's Kaiser report examines this case.
Does it ever feel to you like UK economic policy is cooked up in a crack den? Well, apparently it is. Stacey?
Yes, Max. Only on Kai's report did we warn you over the years that the policy here seems to have been cooked up in a crack den. Top advisor to Chancellor George Osborne filmed smoking crack cocaine in drugs den.
Who pays for Osborne's crack house addiction? The answer is the national debt, which is now over 1.5 trillion pounds. Since Osborne came into office, he's added £1 trillion to the debt. The weekly interest on the debt in this country is more than £1 billion per week. Okay? So they're inflating a housing bubble by increasing the indebtedness of the country. That's the policy only a crackhead would love.
Yeah.
Like, I'll get high today, and I'll worry about the long-term debt some other day.
Firefighters battled the blaze for several hours before it was brought under control. The factory and surrounding houses have, they've been evacuated with heavy plumes of smoke visible for kilometres away. Part of the building has collapsed. No injuries have been reported in that. That's in Pennsylvania, we should remind you. Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott has announced the country will be sending 300 more troops to Iraq to help fight against Islamic State militants. The troops are expected to head to Iraq in May as part of a 2-year mission to be reviewed after 12 months. Australia already has over 150 special troops in Baghdad advising and assisting Iraqi security forces. Abbott stressed that the new troops would not be engaged in combat and are being sent solely to help local forces in training. A spat of police brutality incidents and videos has chipped away at the trust in law enforcement in the US. A word of warning, you may find the videos that we're about to show you upsetting.
Guys, listen, I just want to take him home. Guys! Guys, stop it! Stop! You're hurting me! You're hurting me!
In response to abuse like this, people are taking advantage of a little-known law that allows citizens to carry a gun, flash a badge and even make arrests after special training. The state of Virginia is spearheading the move, where around 800 private companies have taken over police duties. The approach is also proving a success for a community in Texas as well. It hired a private security company in 2012 to maintain order instead of an officer of the law. Locals say the crime rate has since dropped by over 60%, and it also saves $200,000 a year as well. But critics of the legislation say the trend will just bring more violence to the streets.
It is a dangerous practice. We have enough problems in monitoring police departments where the officers have been gone through a formal process, where they've been vetted, where they've had to pass psychological tests, where they've had to submit to training. And we know in far too many cases, even with those kind of officers, they engage in misconduct. They engage in excessive use of force. To the extent that it appears that this practice will extend beyond the borders of the state of Virginia, I think there will be serious pushback. And the people who are protesting now in New York City and other cities across the country about abusive and discriminatory policing will take a very strong position against the privatizing of individual citizens and enable them to act as police officers with badges and guns.
Coming up, we hear from some of the people affected by America's controversial drone program. Stay with us for that. I'll be back in about 30 minutes' time.